Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Talk Stocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today we're lucky enough to have Sean Black, Chief Investment Officer for Happy Belly Food Group, back with us. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Good, Kier. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you as always for joining us. I know you're increasingly busy. You've been on. I think the last time we chatted was almost exactly 3 months ago, so we're kind of due for a kind of quarterly update.
Mhm.
Um, in 3 short months, you guys have been very, very busy. You've had, I don't know, about a dozen news releases, if I'm not counting wrong. So you guys have been incredibly busy. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of an overview on some of the moves that you've made?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about it. In the last quarter, we've been pretty fortunate. This is really everybody saw kind of all come together at once and assumed that almost as if we could plan that. We're not quite that good to be able to do that, but it's really 18 to 24 months of work that is kind of accumulated, and the end result has been we've done significant M&A. We've increased our organic footprint now to a total store count and commitment through area developers, about 210 stores across Canada. So now that the portfolio has expanded, the natural piece is if you have eight total brands in our category, and if they're all expanding, your news flow is going to pick up pretty significantly, and we're just getting started. That's the best part about where we're at as a company.
Yeah, excellent. So kind of a shareholder question. We'll just kind of get a few of these out of the way. Thanks everybody for firing some through. Um, CPG and QSR. Kind of when you stepped into the company, kind of took it over. It was very CPG focused. You've obviously started to bring some of your background with QSR. I know that you have quite a bit of background in sort of both sort of categories. Investors often sort of ask about the CPG portfolio. Could you comment a little bit on that?
Absolutely. There's specific reasons to why the portfolio is, I'm going to say, assembled the way it is today, which is two brands on the CPG side, and now with the closing of Yolks imminently, will be six on the restaurant side, six brands. So it brings us to eight brands total. Couple things. The CPG business. Well, if you back it up a little bit, where the company started being all plant based. First of all, plant based is very niche. It's an absolutely growing category. We love being in it. Some of our brands are focused on plant, and they are doing quite well. But it's very tough to build a significant multi-branded portfolio today of profitable brands that are in CPG and specifically in plant. So the two brands we have in our portfolio today are growing significantly. Holy Crap and Lumberheads Popcorn. Both of them are operating as we move into 2024 profitably. Both of them have no debt. Those check off some significant boxes for us. Debt-free, low capex, because capital's still tight in the market, right? It really is. And, today, if we had the opportunity to do 2 to 5 more brands in CPG that we could buy at a reasonable multiple of EBITDA or profit, that were light on capex and like literally profitable, we'd be debt free. We'd be very interested. But I think you certainly have some exposure in this category. There's not a lot of profitable debt free low capex CPG companies. So we're active. We're active in discussions. I probably get 2 inbound calls a week on CPG. Just haven't found the right fit for our team and our portfolio. So today, the CPG side of our business represents 25%. That's down from early on, probably 60%. And that's just solely due to the fact that the other brands that we have are scaling much quicker. There's, from franchise to corporate, those revenues are fast outpacing our CPG growth. Even though the two assets we have, 2024 will be profitable and are experiencing double-digit growth on both sides.
Great. Thanks for getting into that. And also, if you look at the market in general, it's been a little harder to find sort of, pure sort of like small CPG sort of market success. Not that we necessarily always build things for market success, but QSR, no matter if it's a large cap or a small cap, there's seems to have been some better places to be. So obviously, with your background and what you've done in QSR, I'm pretty eager to see you guys continue to kind of focus there. But thanks for touching on that. And CPG is obviously still an important part of your business.
Mhm.
When we last spoke, back in September, you talked about sort of the desire to get sort of 10 brands sort of on the QSR side, on the restaurant side, under the sort of Happy Belly sort of umbrella. Since then, you've done deals with Yolks and Rosie's Burgers, so you've gotten back into the burger business. You've also announced some next level consulting agreements, I guess, with Coho and their business Purebred, which is a bakery. Can you discuss how these sort of fit into Happy Belly's strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. We had some really positive deals that have come across our plate, and we finally got them across the finish line in Q4. We did have a non-compete up until about June of 2023 in the burger category when we sold our asset, um, Burgers Priest, previously to Recipe and Fairfax, which is now owned by Fairfax. So we were allowed now, we were free agents. We were allowed to get back into the category. We were really looking for the right product, the right people, and the right fit in the model for the category, which was more QSR. And we found that some great partners, phenomenal family. We're super happy to partner with them at Rosie's Burgers. That was our first one. Asset light, has 2 stores open today, profitable from a company standpoint. We're expanding in Q1 to the 3rd store, and we have a significant pipeline of real estate coming in both Ontario, Alberta, and BC. You're going to see us with Rosie's over the next 12 to 18 months. We're really happy about that deal. It's a category we're obviously pretty familiar with. We had great success with Burgers Priest, and so we were pretty picky on people, product, and process, our 3Ps, and we found it. And we looked at every one of them. I met with almost every burger guy you can think of that's successful across Canada. We found the right fit for us. Everyone argues about whose burger's better. We just want to be really good at it. And you'll see us early 2024 start to monetize that asset in with organic growth across Canada. So that was great. That was a great one to get done. It definitely fits into our portfolio. The next one you mentioned, Yolks. One thing, if people look back, people can always, the ultimate debate about MTY was, oh, I don't like their food, or I like their food, or everybody debates that, who's better. One thing that they were really good at is a real estate portfolio. And they had a portfolio of brands that gave them a significant amount of strength across the country because they were able to negotiate with basically buying power. And when we use buying power as a term, it's who can lease the most GLA, gross leasable area. So when you go into a property and you could take from a landlord 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 square feet, or half of a food court like MTY used to be able to do, that's where the power came. And when we are building this, and I've been clear that our goal was to get to 10 brands, and it's so that when a landlord comes to you and you say, oh, yeah, great, you interested? Yeah, I love the site. Well, what restrictive clauses do you have? What other tenants do you have? Great, you're looking for Greek? Got it. You're looking for plant-based? Got it. You're looking for a burger? Great. So then all of a sudden, we can take more square footage. Now, Yolks is a game changer. Yolks can handle 2,200, probably up to 3,000 square feet, seating for about 80 people. A very dominant category that's growing like crazy. So that is a very strategic piece to our real estate portfolio. I was just out in BC. I'm back out there in January. There's been some recent brands that have been suffering. Landlords are coming to us now saying, Sean, can you take 5,000 feet? Actually, yeah, I can. I can take Yolks for 2,500. The other 2,500 I could take for 1,250 square feet for Pyro, 1,250 square feet for Rosie's, or 1,250 square feet for Joey Turks, depending on what's available to go in the property. So that's where the power comes in the real estate, and that's the exact strategy and why we've been after getting to 10 brands so that we become a one-stop shop for landlords, which gives our franchisees or brands that are operating corporately better access to real estate. And Rosie's, obviously Burgers Priest, we knew the category well. When it came to breakfast, I've watched some category leaders out there. I'm going to use OEB Over Easy Breakfast out of BC as a leader. 20 units, probably the best average unit volume in the country. I believe Yolks, a little lesser design package on the store, but from a food and a culinary standpoint, is on par with them. And when you look at the size of the prize, like when we went after Pyro in Canada, we were after a $4 billion company out of the United States called Cattle. I'm being very transparent. We're taking a direct shot at what they're doing. If you look at the United States, there's a category leader worth $1.2 billion, $1.4 billion US called First Watch Restaurant Group. They're out of Bradenton, Florida. They're about 500 units today. They are the category leader today, not IHOP and some of the other guys that are bigger. Denny's, the category is massive, but actually one of the fastest growing categories today in North America is actually breakfast. So we were not only after the real estate, we're looking at emerging categories, emerging brands, someone that has a chance, that has the food and the people to be a leader. And during my due diligence, I was actually sent this brand originally by one of our area developers and our former franchisees. Said, I loved it. You got to go check this brand out. My son goes there all the time. And, anyway, so I did. And it was called Yolks out of BC. I called them up. I'm like, talking to them. I literally cold called them. And a guy says, Sean Black from Mucho Burrito? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, Sean, this is ready from Mucho Burrito. So one of the managers that was running one of the Yolks, actually on Hastings, was a former franchisee. So, we had a great relationship. I did the belly check. In my opinion, best breakfast concept I've come across in Canada. And we're excited. So yes, this is all part of our strategy on real estate to bring the synergy to the real estate with a good mix of brands. Allows us to scale and deliver significant organic growth for years to come with Happy Belly.
Excellent. I've got another shareholder question here for you.
Sure.
With quite a few irons in the fire now, with sort of multiple brands, multiple sort of jurisdictions, and different business models, corporate versus franchise.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize which of these sort of brands and businesses you prioritize with your time, expertise, and capital?
That's a good question. Actually, a very fair question too, and that's the question I probably discuss all the time, even with our existing partners and our potential future partners. A couple things that happened during the process. Not all of them are at the same point where they're all currently today ready to grow at the same level. Some of them are experiencing more regional growth. Some are experiencing national growth. Some of them, like Heal, which was the first deal we did, is further along in that process. So it now has 6 open. Going to experience significant growth in 2024. And it's also just announced its first deal in the United States. So it's a little further ahead in development. But, when it's first early on, our chairman and my business partner, Alex, he's the one that spends the most time with the food, the team, the marketing. He's the one that fosters that brand. Once it's ready to grow and ready to accelerate, it sort of gets passed over more to me from a real estate and a franchising standpoint. Then we decide if we're doing it via corporate or area developer, via franchisees, so we have boots on the ground. So believe it or not, like a parent who says you have 10 kids, you love them all equally, and as long as you have good partners as well. The key is with each one of these deals. So far, only 2 of our brands are corporate. All of them are the others are with partners, and that allows us to have great partners in those brands to work with. If you look at the group from Rosie's, they're ex-Cactus Club guys, phenomenal when it comes to people and culinary and culture. They needed help on real estate and mentorship, and that's something that Alex and our team can certainly deliver. I just get to focus on the growth with them. So believe it or not, we have a great network behind the scenes of operations, culinary, training, marketing, real estate. So depending on the needs, the teams get the access to us that they need. And we meet with them every week. We're driving the agendas, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Well, it's probably a bit early to be worried about bandwidth. You've certainly been involved with several hundred unit sort of brands in the past. So maybe a little early, but still good question. And thanks for the answer.
Yeah, I have one piece to add to that for you was, we had 400 restaurants ourselves, from pipeline to open. When I was at MTY, we were operating, thousands of restaurants. So we certainly do have the bandwidth. And one of the ones you touched on was you mentioned there Purebred as well. Purebred was a great opportunity. The company, I believe, picked up a called Coho Collective out of BC, picked up a great asset, but it was outside their core competency today. So I got introduced to them from a mutual shareholder. Came and said, we need some help integrating this business. We believe we've got a great asset, but we want to scale it. Would you be interested in kind of mentoring us and helping us scale that? So we did a deal that was very creative to our shareholders. It's a very, it's asset light, very cash flow positive, but it also allows us upside in the deal. So if Coho does well because of the support that we've provided, not only do we get paid for it, but we also participate in the upside of the share price of Coho. So Purebred is a beloved brand in BC, incredible unit economics, and a brand that once we met the food and the people, we wanted to be part of. So this allowed us to do it. You've seen it. I've been spending quite a bit of time in BC. I'm on the phone regularly with the guys from Coho, and we'll help guide them forward. And great people. We're happy to be associated with them. We're lucky to be associated with them. And that group's got some solid backers. They just needed some help, integrating it. They wanted to do right by the Purebred brand, so it was a good fit for us to help them. It was a great time, and we spent with them, and a very creative deal for our shareholders.
Excellent. And in terms of a bit of bandwidth, you've added a bit of bandwidth to the team. You added an ex Tim Hortons exec who's senior VP of finance now for Happy Belly. Can you mention a bit about them, who they are, how you know them, and what they'll be doing for Happy Belly?
Absolutely. Another gentleman, CEO of another large company, and one of the guys who was former top guys for Walmart and Tim Hortons over the years. Was speaking to him and saying, at some point we want to, increase the bench strength we have on the accounting team. Somebody that's local, boots on the ground, can really help us drive unit economics. Really understands franchise partnership with franchisees, between corporate and franchisee. We'd love to have somebody introduced to us, and so we didn't go through a recruiter. I was literally turning over rocks and seeing what we could do. And one of the CEOs reached back out to me and said, "Sean, I got somebody that is incredible. Basically in charge of profitability for 4,000 Tim Hortons. Loved by franchisees, respected by corporate, senior level person. This guy could be, eventually one of the guys running your company. You should speak with him. He's based out of Oakville, so where our office is. So it's local. Had the opportunity to meet a gentleman named Gary Fung. And all the people who have ever hired in my career, I've never had as many DMs and people call me that I don't even know, including like a president or CEO of Tim Hortons, reach out to me and say, "Wow, great hire. This guy's incredible." And I can tell you in the short period of time that he's been, he doesn't officially join until January 4th, but in his spare time, the impact he's had on us already has been significant. Great cultural fit, great person. In the short period of time I've got to know him, I respect him a lot. True story, he asked, up front, typical guy like that, says, well, what's the comp plan look like? It was the first test when we said, you don't get any warrants or options or anything when you start. You can earn them. But in the meantime, if you'd like to be one of us, you can buy alongside us in the float and show us and our shareholders that you're here for the long haul, you're committed. And Gary's first week, he was buying in the float. Participated right alongside, so he's cut from the right cloth to be part of our team. And I commend Sean on our team. Spent a lot of time with Gary, built some trust with him, and enabled us to hire him. So great fit. I've had landlords, CEOs of other companies, other people that Gary's come across in his path, in his career. That have been very, very thankful and shocked, actually, no offense, but to Happy Belly. But some guys were like, seriously? Like, how much did you pay that guy? Like, how did you get him? And we're very lucky. He's great. And having someone of that bandwidth and on our bench is phenomenal for our team.
Excellent. Now, just going back to Yolks a little bit, it's a little again, augmenting strategy or just sort of evolving strategy a little bit. It's not, I guess, traditionally sort of known as a quick service. It's more of a full service, which you indicated in the news release when you announced the deal. How do you sort of see full service kind of fitting into the overall Happy Belly strategy? Is that something that maybe we will see more of with other brands, or are you looking to bring a quick service component to that brand?
Initially, if you look at our background, we were always just smaller QSR guys until Burgers Priest was the next kind of venture up from unit, economics and unit volumes, a little bit of square footage. Then we did our deal with Fresh, and Fresh had a special place in Toronto, in the hearts of people from Torontonians in plant based. It was the number one volume and brand in plant based full service dine in the country, and I really feel that. Our strength and our experience with Fresh is what allowed us to move into this deal with Yolks. Yolks is beloved in BC and in Vancouver. Unbelievable reaction since we announced that deal. Obviously, you can see it too, even in our share price. So some new. It brought on a whole new group of investors, and so it was strategic from a real estate standpoint. I believe breakfast is the fastest growing category in the food service today. So it was a diversification of our portfolio offering, a diversification of our real estate offering, and the team. A couple of them being ex-Mucho Burrito guys. The founder, Steve, my first meeting with him, I was a little bit nervous. I thought he was going to be a little bit Iron Chef, really good at food and really crazy. But Steve actually, he was phenomenal. And his story, one of the most, successful ones I've ever heard of actually going from, Michelin star restaurants, working with, the French Laundry, one of the few three Michelin starred restaurants in North America, to opening up a food truck and actually being successful enough with the food truck that he moved to bricks and mortar, translated that success to probably the most successful breakfast concept in Vancouver. That's what attracted me to the deal. But it really, really fit from a synergy standpoint. And I put it in kind of in the box of when we moved into the deal with Fresh. And that experience with Fresh, operating with incredible unit volumes, is allowing us to support and I believe be a good partner for the team at Yolks.
And franchising, obviously, we hear the word quite a bit. I guess it takes time, obviously, to go out, secure the real estate. It takes time to build a restaurant, have it operate. In terms of the way you guys have done your area development sort of deals and the sheer number of locations now that are, I guess, committed to, is there like a financial commitment there? So if you've announced that, will those all eventually open? And are they
There is a
committed?
contractual obligation by each of those area developers to open those doors. So each of those agreements are 10 years. And they, after the 10 years, they have a minimum criteria to open. So that's all the deals we've announced were actually minimum quota that they have minimum quota numbers that they have to hit. And if they don't hit it, they lose the rights. That simple, right? There are penalties in place and there are repercussions for not hitting them. And they are committed to with a development timeline and schedule that's attached to every one of those agreements. So our goal this year was to get into that 150 to 200 range. Currently, we're at, I think, about 210. So we did, just surpass our high-end goal of deals to have in area development as an early stage indicator of what's coming next. In 2024, I'd like to see us get that number north of 300 as a development pipeline, and then them start to execute and start to be opening. And on those development deals, we would expect every one of our brands have them for 2024, including Yolks. I think we will be expanding the Yolks footprint and platform very quickly post-close, and we expect it to close end of December or first week of Jan. That's an accounting and legal thing for
Sure.
timing. But once we do close, we will expect to announce significant growth for that brand in Q1, including some offers for locations that are already in motion by the parent company today, as well as the additional growth that the Happy Belly team is going to bring to Yolks in 2024.
Yeah, excellent. And not all franchises are kind of created equal.
No.
One of the things I love talking to you about is you obviously have a lot of depth and detail in terms of franchising, and it's not just a word that's thrown around. It's something you've eaten, slept, breathed for a number of years. You know it inside and out. Maybe just as a bit of an education for us, could you explain a little bit about how you are franchising these brands? Is it sort of a similar sort of approach with each brand? Are they different? And what are the different models that you can get within when you start looking at franchise, and which have you selected?
Okay, that's a good one because if you look at when our first brand we brought on was Heel. It was 2 stores when we had it. When we first brought it on. Today it's 6, all corporate. The next 6 that are in the pipeline are all franchised. So our franchise program is going to launch January 15th. We take possession of the first store. We expect it to open in March in the Beaches area of Toronto. That'll be the first franchise for Heel. So that brand is kicked off. We'll probably have 4 to 6 locations under construction for Heel in Q1. That's what we'd anticipate. We got it to 6 in year 1 via corporate. We would like it to end year 2 somewhere between 12 and 20 stores open for that brand. And the first 6 will be corporate. The remainder incoming are all scheduled to be franchised for 2024 as an asset light model. If an opportunity comes up and cash flow permits for that brand, because it is cash flow positive today, we will then add in a subsequent corporate store if the opportunity comes up. But initially, it's all franchised that's coming in 2024 as the next phase of growth. If you look at each of the ones we've bringing in recently, Joey Turks, sorry, that was corporate open, but Rosie's and Yolks. Rosie's and
Yes.
Yolks today are all franchised. The founders operate them, but on closing, each of these deals, they convert into franchise units. And them and their partners are experiencing more growth. Rosie's has already got a 3rd site committed, signed, recently announced. Be opening in March in the Well in downtown Toronto. And then if you look at Yolks, as I mentioned, we're already in active lease negotiations. I'm already working with Christoph and the team to secure subsequent stores. So really, the models that we are typically touching today are asset light that are coming into us because they already are franchised. So really for us, we're just accelerating that path. They usually come to us when they need help expansion out of their primary market or they need expertise in real estate or development. And we're lucky that we have some boots on the ground across the country with area developers, with former franchisees. So when you see us going into BC shortly with Heel as an example, those are former franchisees of ours. They've committed to the first 10 stores, 5 in Alberta, 5 in BC. That makes it so much easier. We've already worked together. We have a history together. We know the real estate. That allows a brand like that to get off the ground a lot quicker.
Right.
Yolks is going to follow the same path. So is Rosie's.
And in terms of some of these partners who are ex sort of franchisees, do they sort of like operate these locations themselves, or do they find other people that would sort of go out and make the financial commitment for a store here and there?
We've actually got both. We've got a couple of area developers that are former area developers of ours and partners of ours. And then we also have like the franchisees that have bought the actual stores. So far, all of the Heels in Western Canada are former franchisees of ours, and so is the area developer. But it's the area developers actually found franchisees on the ground that are opening, and we anticipate imminently to announce quite a bit more real estate that is coming through the pipeline. Just in final stages, lawyers are not moving super fast at this time of year, but as soon
Sure.
as we do get sign off, we will share the updated real estate and commitments. If you look in Eastern Canada, we have a combination. Area developer that's on the ground that we worked with previously. I have some former employees as well. You're going to see coming up here, there are going to be some franchisees with us that worked with us in the past. Now they're ready to spread their wings, and if they're going to open their first own private business, and they said they'd rather work with us in our systems. They know how we work as a franchisor. So we've got some franchisees in final stages of approvals for Rosie's and some of our current brands that are actually going to be joining us across Ontario as franchisees. So Rosie's, I do anticipate a significant amount of growth in the first 1 to 2 quarters of 2024.
And so in terms of like typically for a franchise to succeed, you would have a pretty like you'd have a strong brand. You'd already have a number of corporate owned stores that have already been successful. I would say you have that in terms of like Yolks or Rosie's or Heel and things like that, where they've already now demonstrated that they can be successful in multi location, and now it's time to sort of expand. In terms of, is that something that you guys are directly, you have like a playbook of how you develop a franchise?
Yeah,
And what are some of the tools and things that you're sort of providing so that you are tipping the playing field in the advantage so that these franchise locations can be successful?
yeah. The onboarding program that we go through with each one of these brands, first thing Alex does actually is take out his playbook and walks them through it. Starts them, right from the very, very first step. Literally doing a deep dive on the brand, right? So he goes, lets them give their feedback, we give our feedback, really get to know each other. Get pretty intimate with the brand, working in the restaurants, working with the team, looking at the food, looking at the culture, where we can, where we can help. Some of the brands are ready to go, but so far, when the brands are at a young, early stage, we try to go in and do some fine tuning and some refinement on them. And then once their operation is down, then you got to look at your marketing, your purchasing, everything to make sure that the what we call a unit economical model is ready to go. And if it is, then in parallel path, we're working on the real estate and the development side, and that's where kind of my area of expertise comes in. Um, and each one of the brands we have today, I would say actually every single one of them is actively in lease negotiations for subsequent stores because they're all basically at the point of maturity where they can go and move forward. The youngest brand in the portfolio, Joey Turks, it's actively, it's what you said, it's going on about 3 weeks old. We are proving the proof of concept every day with the food and the numbers. We're ecstatic with the performance of the brand. There's been a couple of under the counter high fives. We're not doing it too loud or too anything. We're just, success that the team gets, success on the food, feedback on the food. The quality of product and service that we're giving is what we're really focused on. And, so that's the only one that we haven't actively hit the button on for opening more stores yet.
Sure.
We get an incredible amount of inbound calls from landlords and franchisees, but all other 5 restaurant brands that we have are actively negotiating subsequent deals.
So Joey Turks, like you said, it's about 3 weeks old. It was one of the fastest announcements of, hey, we're starting a brand, to selecting a location, to building it out, to opening it, and building a menu and all of that at the same time. So congrats on that. Um, so what are the plans there? Is it to do another sort of like corporate store? Or is that one you're going to use the learnings of like your single location and then start to prepare it for franchising? Or is
Um,
it still
you know,
undecided at this time?
it is undecided, but I'm on the road probably 4 or 5 days a week looking at real estate, understanding the numbers as I look at them every single day to see when they're coming back, where the customer's coming from, where what is the how is the menu mix, what's the hours of traffic flow in the current restaurant, and I'm using that to guide me on the next real estate selections. Now, if we had a partner that was local or somebody within the team that wanted to be partner on a store, even a JV or a franchisee, we will consider it for the next store. But we also are okay signing the next location corporately. We have some of our existing operators that would like to be the next franchisee, but we're actively sourcing them for the next site, but we just haven't signed it yet. And I'm just trying to get a little more data. We had a pretty good
Sure.
idea where we'd be on numbers, but as the more information we collect, it's helped guiding us to the next real estate and the timing of the next opening. But based on early numbers and early success, Tony, Alex, the team, the job they've done, do we believe we will be opening more of these in 2024? Yes, we do.
So I was just doing a little bit of research, in preparation for the call, and if you look at other sort of like dual prong, sort of corporate franchise type QSR brands, if you look at larger ones like Domino's or McDonald's, they've actually been getting out of the corporate store game and getting totally into franchise locations. You've obviously been a big proponent of the asset light model. So is there a reason why you think some of them are doing that? Is it just the margin that once you've got something systematized, it takes a lot less people to actually run it if it's franchisable? What do you think the sort of trend towards that would be? And are you taking any notes from their playbook?
Yeah, 100% taking some notes from their playbook. You got to remember early on, the largest shareholder by far of Chipotle was actually McDonald's. McDonald's
Yeah,
early on came in at about 90 stores, invested a huge amount of money. I think 300 and some million dollars they put into Chipotle. They took out when they sold. They sold in the early first year of IPO. They walked away with about a 5 times return on that investment. So they walked away with, I think it was about 1.5 billion, 1.6 billion. But today that money would be worth about 60 billion. So,
oh
they
gosh,
left about 58 or 59 billion on the table on their Chipotle investment. But
yeah,
back then the pressure was on them from shareholders to focus just on McDonald's. Their franchisees were pushing them, and so I get it. But the difference in Canada and the U.S. is there's a ton more VC money and capital money in the United States. You could afford to be like a Sweet Greens, raise massive amounts of money, burn cash like it's nobody's, like it's like monopoly money, and
sure.
still trade like you're worth a few $1 billion, which Sweet Greens does. SG on the Nasdaq is their ticker. And
And they've got the corporate owned model,
that's right.
correct?
They're a corporate role
And
model.
Chipotle would be corporate owned.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
And that's right.
however, there seems to be the other alternative, which would be purely franchised, and we're
That's right.
starting to see some of those models like a McDonald's or a Domino's, and there's a few others where they're getting a bit out of the corporate store model
Yeah, I
and
think there's a
focusing a bit
lot of
more
value in a
on the
franchisee being the boots
sure,
on the ground. And I also think when you're starting a brand today, it's different than when Subway and McDonald's, these guys started. Speed to market is a huge thing because some idiot out there will happily be all over, trying to copy you real quick, right? So for us, with a brand new brand, first of its kind in Canada, speed to market's important. So we will look to, as long as the numbers check out, we will look to expand that real quickly across Canada in an asset light model. We may open in parallel path a couple more corporate stores, but you will see us expand it quickly so that we can secure real estate, secure the right franchisees, and plant our flag in the primary provinces across the country, and tie up the real estate, which will give us the best performance per unit. If you look at how slow Chipotle has rolled out in Canada, it took them years to get going here. Meanwhile, we already had 100 Mucho Burritos open, and they didn't have 10 Chipotles. So
right.
we put a high dollar value on speed to market, and unless you're VC backed or you have an unlimited supply of capital, you just can't grow at that pace of corporate stores. It takes a lot of time, massive infrastructure, and that's not how we're built today. So our brands predominantly will be asset light, deliver significant growth. But when we do get a chance, we pick our spots. We're very happy with the first store we've opened on that side. Heel's got 6 corporate stores open. The right one comes up, cash flow permits. 2024, we'll open another one. We'll continue to do it. But in parallel path, as an example, when you use a brand like Heel, if we can open 10 franchises, generating significant free cash flow, funnel some of that back into a debt-free corporate store, why wouldn't you do it? Then you drive significant top-line revenue and on one side, and with good margin, and then you go and drive significant franchise revenue with very high margin on the franchise side. So I would anticipate Joey Turks to have the same rollout schedule, some corporate, as well as some franchisees, because some really quality operators are out there. And I've just finished being in Alberta, BC, and Ontario. The next couple of days, I'm in Ottawa and Montreal looking at real estate and meeting with partners out there, doing the belly check on a couple brands. If we find the right real estate and have the right franchisees, we will move forward with more stores, asset light as well. And remember, a brand like Joey Turks, we do own 100% of it. So every store you open, is very meaningful to us, but it helps us leverage the portfolio on the real estate side, open more Pyros, open more Joey Turks, open more
Right.
Rosies, open
So
more.
just again for the education on the franchise versus corporate, you're able to sort of outsource or some of the risk onto others when you franchise. So in terms of like staff to like run a location, in terms of some of the cost to open, you can sort of sort of de-risk Happy Belly corporately by putting that on them, and that's part of the assessment if they're I guess a good group to work with. Is if they have the ability to pull all those things together and come up with the money to get something developed. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's franchisees can have the capital to open up say 100 stores today. Or we're looking at if you're doing it corporately, you might open up 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? That would be a great year-over-year growth. So
Sure.
you can't possibly get the scale one or the other, have the drive the marketing dollars, which are so important today for your franchisees to do. If you look at a brand out of the United States, Jimmy John's, they sold for over $3 billion to the guys behind. I'm going to say Duncan and a whole bunch of them in the U.S., but $3 billion just on franchising, right? And they barely had any corporate stores in the system. They probably had less than 20 stores total corporate.
Right.
And Jimmy John's was a great example of it. Jersey Mike's is doing the same thing currently, growing like crazy in the United States. That'll probably be one of the next multi-billion-dollar brands sold. Subway recently sold for I think 9.6 billion. They had no corporate stores, so there's great value you can create for your franchisees with no capex required or very little on the franchise side that de-risks for us in a market where capital is tight and capital is expensive. We can share some of
Right.
that burden with our franchisees.
Excellent. And thanks for giving us a rundown on that. We could talk all day about franchising, the ins and outs of it. Thank you for educating us a bit on that. Um, so you've started to not only expand, sort of out west, BC, Alberta, like you talked, but you also mentioned, announced that Heel's going to be preparing itself and looking at some U.S. expansion. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look during my time previously when we had Extreme Pita Mucho Burrito, a big part of the reason that MTY acquired us was Stanley was specifically looking for U.S. entry. And, he waited till about 2013 to do that. They started in 1979. So if you take the math back, like it took them 24 years to get to 9 brands. Just a personal mission of mine. I've been trying to get to 10 brands in 2 years, which is next summer, um, and which would be 22 years faster. But also a big tipping point came for them when they made U.S. entry, and it allowed them to be less pigeonholed on real estate. It allowed them to be overexposed just in Canada. I also believe the brand that we started with is very well suited to the climate in the United States. It's very well suited to the lifestyle in Florida, specifically the markets, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, the Miami markets where we are targeting as our initial rollout. Um, so that was a very strategic move because I realized the impact it had on MTY. We had an operator with boots on the ground in Florida, and we had a brand that was well suited to the climate. So for us, this is a test pilot in the market. We're going to do proof of concept first. We have significant interest from other states for Heel, as well as there's over 650 Starbucks just in Florida. Like we've done a
Wow.
10 store deal for Heel. So Heel in Florida could be 100 stores and not even make a dent. So 10 stores is just a true test pilot for the market. And we will look to expand on that significantly if the numbers check out. But, the first thing we did is we secured in my opinion, the number one brokerage firm in Florida. They represent Chipotle, Starbucks, Cava, and Jersey Mike's. Just last week, I was able to secure them as our tenant reps for Florida. The most connected guys out there. They also do Costco. They do some of the biggest brands you can think of in the country. So we've got a really strong representation in Florida. Real estate search has already started. I'll be down there in January with our partner on the ground. Boots on the ground, actually sourcing the sites ourselves, using a lot of the data that we're able to pull from the other brands. to give us the best chance of success as we roll out Heal in Q1 in Florida. But yes, it was very strategic from a timing standpoint, from a company standpoint. A year ago, 18 months ago, we received no M&A calls from the United States. I'm probably receiving 1 to 2 inbound M&A calls a week from the U.S. at the moment. We haven't done any deals in the U.S., but people are finally starting to learn about us and considering us as an option. We went the organic route, going to test ourselves in Florida first.
Hey, excellent. Thanks for giving us a rundown on a lot of the restaurant sort of, the operational components of the company. Maybe we can just touch on a little the other side of it, maybe kind of the market side and things like that. So I guess when we chatted last time, you were sort of like 14, 15 cents. You're probably up about 60 odd percent sort of since then. You kind of had a bit of resistance kind of in the 2021. I guess sort of the resistance has become sort of like newer support. Part of that might have to do with your continued sort of quarter over quarter growth, and you've had, I guess, your 6th consecutive record quarter and your 8th consecutive quarter of growth, Q over Q sort of growth. Can you discuss some of the drivers behind that? Is that and you already mentioned earlier on that QSR is now 75 or 80% of your sort of revenue mix. Is that something that you see continuing into 2024?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think slowly over time. I know it's painful because we didn't do IR. We didn't do a lot of stuff that's out there. Trust me, it's way more fun to do it the other way, the old school way, bootstrapping it, mindful of your P&L, mindful of your cap table, and working with the cash at hand, trying to put as much back into the business as possible. The only way we've ever known it, because Alex, Mark, and I, as we built companies, we always built them with our own money. And, we typically skewed debt, just like Stanley did early on with MTY. Always, hated debt. And so we've done the best we can to build it one quarter at a time, build a reputation of disciplined, but predictable growth. And I think so far it's working. I believe 2024, as we scale the brands, the only thing that stops us from growth is ourselves. Unless we take our foot off the gas, I don't see the engine slowing down at all. Whether we keep a quarter over quarter streak going or not forever, who knows? I can't predict that, but I want to make sure that
Sure.
top line and bottom line, we are delivering, and we are very mindful of improving them every quarter. Bringing on people like Gary, strengthening the system, making sure the health of our brands is also part of the process. That's a big piece of what we're doing, so making sure we stay healthy. But we're only at 6 brands today on the restaurant side. Pretty clear ambition of getting to 10. Do I think we will get there? Yes. As long as we can find partners that are aligned with us, do fair deals with us, want to leverage our team to build their brands into something much bigger over the years, then if we find that alignment and they have good food and good people, we'll do deals. We just won't overpay for them. We have no interest in overpaying, just sticking our neck out, taking huge risk on debt that we can't deliver on. Because every asset we do touch on, we try to double the EBITDA within 24 months. And so far, we've more than done that on every brand we've touched. And that's an very important streak internally that we want to keep going, because that's what gets us to cash flow positive and then controlling our own destiny going forward. We've been very fortunate to raise money above market each time we've raised it. The last one was a strategic. We put money in at 30 cents. So, yeah, I think we were on at 14, 15. Everybody was hammering me, daily asking me for some IRR or be a little more promotional. We tried to stay very focused on the flow, very focused on the numbers. We've taken insider ownership from 2%. I think recently we just crossed the threshold of 20% insider ownership. You've had the CEO's family go from 2 million shares to, I believe he's about 20 million shares now. I've acquired millions of shares in the float. You've seen even our chairman recently buying. I joke with him, dusting off his wallet and buying some shares in the float.
Pretty conservative guys, so for him to buy, must like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they love getting ribbed about stuff like that. But we are actively doing it. Our inner circle we believe we've now got 70, 75% of the float in friendly hands. The cheapest financing we ever did at 20 was at 20. We have capital available to us if we wanted to. We just have not tried to burden the company or dilute sub 20. We've had nonstop inbound requests asking us if we'd like to take in capital. The recent rise in share price certainly brought on some phone calls. Guys asking, do we need help with IR? No. Guys asking, would you like to do a financing around this price? No. We have cash in the bank. I think we reported about 1.4 million in the bank last quarter on our earnings. When we started, I think we were burning close to 1.5 a quarter. Our burn now is down to close to 200. We believe we will continue to get that burn down in 2024 as we accelerate on the royalty side and the opening of the franchise side. So we've been very fortunate to slowly, I think, build some trust in the market. I think that's helped a lot from people around us to soak up the float. I think there's a slow turn as well, and maybe in micro cap and small cap.
Yes.
People are looking through the carnage of the last 2 years, seeing who's actually executing, which management team has actually done what they said they were going to do, and who do you bet on as a management team going forward. So if you believe the market opportunities there, which, there's a reason why we're here. We watch Recipe go private, MTY focus on, 200 million plus deals. The last two, I believe they spent 500 million US in the United States. As now 70% of their revenue comes from the US. If you look when I joined Stanley, there was basically 0% of their revenue coming from the US. So the market opportunity is there. The management team's executing. The gentleman, even the strategic that put money in recently, called me and said, "Hey, do you need any more money?" The answer was no. At this point, we do not. So no guarantees when you call them, and maybe they won't have it. But do I believe we have access to friendly capital? Yes, I do. Do I believe we'll deliver significant growth in 2024 versus 2023? Yes, I do. So as a microcap coming out of the last 2 years, we didn't blow up the cap table and we didn't burn through all our cash. So that's pretty good. I'm not saying we're perfect, because trust me, we are not. We make mistakes every day. We just try to minimize, our mistakes, mitigate the damage that they do,
Great.
and make sure the ones when we do hit provide, significant, value for our shareholders. So
Right.
we're up, but we're still buying in the float. I think the chairman was recently buying at 22, 23 cents. All of our original investment, when we put the money in 2.5 years ago, we're all in at 20 cents. So believe it or not, we've been downsizing, averaging down dramatically over the last 12, 24 months.
Right. There's been quite a bit of accumulation and insider reports, which is always nice to insider filings. It's always nice to see when it's on the buy side when you're accumulating. So certainly appreciate that. That's great alignment for other investors that would be looking to sort of accumulate. So Sean, hey, with all these brands and all this new territory and travel and whatnot, what's a typical day in the life look like for you these days?
Oh, that's a good one. Twofold. I believe it or not, as I'm sure the people around me will tell you, I read a lot. Read about what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry, which categories are growing, which brands are growing, because we're always still looking for the next emerging category or the next emerging brand, for the brands that are executing, and then we call them up just like we did Yolks. Some of them call us, but starts early, and it starts with some reading, understanding what's going on for that day. Lately, if you look at Q4, there's been lots of evenings where it's been midnight or later, and Sean and I are working on the next morning's news release, because I think we went, 10 or 12 days and, in 3 weeks where we had news. So it was a lot of late nights. Sean is getting really good at typing late at night and putting together news releases, because we do put the news as it happens. So, from early morning until, past midnight, it's that. But typically, probably 5 days a week at least, I'm in our restaurant, whether it's ours or one of the ones that we're doing a belly check on. Look at how we can improve, or who else is, when you hear about another brand that's got incredible unit economics, which one of them I'm going to go see tomorrow. You get in a car, you get on a plane, and you go see them. And, if you can't buy them, join them. Look at it, right? Say, okay, there's a reason why we got into the category with, Caribbean. We felt it was an emerging category. It was a concept out there that we just couldn't get alignment with and couldn't buy. So we went and created our own. When you do find one like a Yolks and you hear about their unit economics and their people and their food, you get on a plane, you go meet them, you get alignment, and you do a deal. So I would say lately, 75% of my time is spent on real estate. That's changed. It was probably 25 before, and it was probably 75 M&A. At the moment, I'm probably spending 75% on real estate, 25% on M&A, because we're up to 6 brands now, which is pretty incredible over the last 18 months, but almost 1 deal per quarter. And going into next year, low end for us, we'd like to open 15 restaurants, high end, probably 30 restaurants. And to deliver that real estate and in the early stages of design, construction, culinary, that takes time and effort. So more of my time is required on the real estate side. So I would expect that probably to be reflective in what we deliver in 2024 from a growth standpoint. I think a lot of our business is going to come from organic growth. And I still, don't get me wrong, we still want to get to 10. That's not changing. But that's a big part of my day is focused on organic growth. Real estate landlord meetings are happening 3 to 5 days a week, tying them around restaurant visits often. And the good news is this time around, we're leveraging our network on the real estate side. So I'm able to go back to, the landlords across the country that thankfully we never burned the last time and say, hey, like we're watching some brands out there that are just falling off the trees. Like it's crazy how many inbound calls I'm getting in a day for AAA real estate, benefit to the current partners and brands. And 75% real estate today, 25% M&A, and probably 20%. I probably leave 5-10% of my day every day goes into IR. You know what I mean? Like literally just talking to our shareholders, dealing with inbound calls. And I would say that most of the accumulation in our float over the last 12, 18 months has been existing shareholders doubling down on us because we have executed. And some of their other names haven't. So a lot of guys have increased their position. I spoke to one shareholder the other day, between himself and a couple guys, they're approaching 9 million shares in the float now. So, it's pretty significant when, 18 months ago, they didn't own 1 share of the company. So I'd say our float's getting pretty tight in some pretty trusted hands, and we'll continue to do that.
So I guess, anyways, thanks very much for that. That's great. Thanks for walking us through that. Still sounds like a busy day. Hope you get a bit of time for the family and whatnot. But you've heard a bit, anecdotally, we've obviously had like food costs that have been rising and things like that. Is that something you think sort of like benefits your category in terms of, QSR over like traditional sort of full service? Or what are some of the things that you're doing to sort of manage some of these rising costs for some of the inputs?
Absolutely. That's a very hot topic in our business today. That's a great question because every single day operators are managing their costs, right? Whether it's utility costs, they're looking at ways to save money on labor. They're looking at ways to save money on food costs, marketing costs. And I tell you, still the best way to ever do that is be your own best advertising. Have great food and great service. And then you don't have to pay as much for people to drive traffic. But if you look in the industry today, that it is a for sure concern. But what it's doing, we went through this in 2000. We went through this in 2010. And I'd say that right now is the most unique opportunity I've ever seen in the business. Last time there was a slowdown in jobs and in the market. People did what we call dine down. Instead of going to the keg, they show up at A&W. Brands like A&W benefited huge last time. Extreme Pita, Mucho Burrito, the brands we were involved in experienced significant growth, and the higher end brands, next thing you know, there's less appetizers getting ordered. There's less expensive bottles of wine on the expense account getting ordered, but they do show up to a Pyro, to a Rosie's. They do bring in more fast casual, more QSR. So real benefiting factors are exactly where our brands are sitting. If you look at First Watch, they've been trending 4 to 8% growth quarter over quarter. Well, a lot of pizza brands are getting destroyed right now. Not as much eating at home and stuff because a lot of people are shifting their meals to breakfast. Breakfast and lunch is a bigger dine-out category for growth right now than dinner. A lot of more people are taking home for dinner Our delivery's up huge, but dine-in for the big guys is down significantly. Not everybody, I went to a restaurant the other day. On the tip prompt, it had 25, 30, 35%. Like,
Wow.
no offense to some of them, but, the bills have gone up significantly. And then you ask someone to tip
Sure.
you 35% on your check. Like, I think that's, excessive. And there is pushback in the category. So I think, you'd want to be for the next 12, 24 months, dine down is going to be huge. And I think we are very well positioned for breakfast, lunch, dinner at a much lower price point. Accessible brands, via pickup or delivery. All of our brands, if you look, like I've received calls recently from some of the biggest brands in the country, Pizza and other brands, all calling us, asking us to take half their square footage. Saying, hey, listen, we're downsizing our stores. We went to these big 2,500 square foot stores. Now we want to go back to being just a delivery brand, just like Domino's did. And we don't want to be a dine-in pizza restaurant anymore. Would you be interested in taking some of our real estate? So that's happening for brands across the country. A lot of them had, 5, 6, 7,000 square feet. Some of them selling chicken, some of them selling, doesn't matter. Like,
Right.
now they need to downsize. So that's providing real estate opportunities for us. But it also tells you it's because the customers are spending less time in the restaurants. They're spending more time in delivery and takeout. Our brand, believe it like Yolks, is doing significant business. They just started it, significant business already in delivery and takeout. So 10 years ago, nobody was doing delivery and takeout of a breakfast concept. I don't
Right.
believe it barely existed. It wouldn't have been unheard of. So dine down is very big here. You're a very good point on that, and I'm very
And
thankful.
you guys are quite, it sounds like quite well positioned for it. I noticed myself, going out and having dinner, you get much less value than if you go out and have like a ginormous breakfast. You're getting much more sort of like food, a much better sort of experience. That just switching when you eat out, the timing, sort of like
Absolutely,
going
or
for
I'll
a dinner.
pick up a great meal.
Yeah. So I guess that's part of the reason why breakfast is on such a rise is you're probably getting much better value, and consequently, you guys would be still able to achieve that margin
That's right.
based
And
upon.
getting a bill of $250 or $350 for a family of four at the keg. Some people are starting to scratch their head a little bit, right? I mean, when it's $20 for an appetizer, and then mains are 30, 40, $50 a person.
Right.
And if they mark up wine at some places now 200-300%, and then they ask for a 25%, 35% tip. Some people are saying, you know what, I'm going to go for breakfast. It's a more simple meal. It's still a family dine occasion, and then I will pick up my lunch or dinner. And
Right.
if I want a nice bottle of wine, I'll have it at home, but I'm not paying 3 times the price. So there is some pushback out there. I believe in the market. Dine down is happening. Breakfast and lunch are the benefactors of that. If your prices are there and you provide decent value and service, I think you will be a huge benefactor. So companies like QSR, Happy Belly, that are multi-branded, there's a reason why some of them are calling for opening thousands of restaurants over the next number of years. But in QSR, I don't see many of the big boys offering, other than a Joey or a Cactus or an Earl's.
Sure.
They're a bit of an anomaly. I don't see a lot of guys opening a lot of restaurants at the moment in the big service, full serve.
Right. I think we've seen a lot of deals done where they sell those out, where they're selling out, and then the first thing that somebody does is restructure it. So
Mhm.
so that's probably why there's a bit of real estate sort of available. Well,
Yeah,
it sounds like you're playing in the right area within the food space and
right
within
place at the right
restaurants.
time.
Yeah. Anything that you kind of want to leave us with? Anything in terms of last thoughts? Anything related to 2024?
No,
Some of the growth drivers for 2024. Anything? Anyways, why don't we wrap up?
sure. I think for next year, like I said, I think today we're I'm going to say 16 restaurants open. Like I said, I think we'll more than double our company size in 2024 in a very capex friendly manner. I think we will increase our path to being cash flow positive and just growing our brands across the portfolio. We have no silly raise, going to get just because our stocks moved up. We're not going to dump a bad financing on anybody's head here when you wake up tomorrow morning. It's not happening. We're still spending zero money on IR. If we want money in the short term, if we needed it for some strategic we'll go get it, but we'd be friendly to our existing shareholder base. We do look to accelerate our path to 10 brands in 2024. So I do believe we will deliver more M&A, so inorganic growth, and I believe we will deliver organic growth as well in 2024. So the story really hasn't changed, other than the company's getting bigger from going from 23 to 24, and we're stronger from a balance sheet standpoint. Share price is up. We're up, I think, 120% so far this year. So a lot of shareholders are happy, but for me, I'm a little more focused on the economics of the company and making sure that we're healthier. And we are. And we have, like I said, strategic people around us that are bringing us other M&A, like Yolks when it was brought to me. Rosie's, same thing. They happen to have a store right by my house. Great people. We're going to do our part to help those brands grow. So from us, no silly raises. Organic and inorganic growth in 2024 across our portfolio is what you should expect. And if it's not accretive, if it's not asset light or debt free, cash flow positive, don't look for us to do any deals like that in 2024. Just basic, simple, disciplined growth is what we anticipate delivering for the next 12 months.
Hey, excellent. Well, on that note, thank you very much. I wish you and your family and the rest of the Happy Belly family, your extended family, excellent holiday and warm wishes for 2024. So anyway, Sean, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Too. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you guys out there. I'll be up in BC again in January. And for you and your family, I wish you all the best too.
All right. Thank you.